The English curriculum is concerned not just with language learning, but with learning through language. In order to acquire new language skills and in developing the ability to use language, children need to purposefully practice language. Providing the children with structured language activities enable them to do this. Barrier games require children to interact and use language to complete a task by giving and receiving instructions. They promote listening and speaking and help to strengthen children's semantic, syntactic and pragmatic language skills. Other language skills addressed include auditory processing, following directions, understanding and using spatial concepts, requesting clarification and describing skills. They target both receptive and expressive language skills.
Well, oral language really underpins other language skills such as reading and writing. Okay? So our curriculum tells us that not only is oral language essential for language skills, but also for the approach in teaching other subjects. The barrier games activity that we're going to talk about really is an activity that can be used with a lot of mathematical language, but it can also be used in the sense of geography for your mapping skills also. So today we have a new barrier game, okay? And here's our pictures. So they're both the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
And both Adrian and I have a dolphin, a little pirate, a turtle,
A boat.
a diver, a chest, there could be treasure in there,
octopus.
and an octopus. Both Adrian and I modelled the language and the rules of the game and the activity to the children today, which is really essential because it gets them warmed up. It exposes them to the type of activity that they're going to be engaged in. And they can see good language directions from the speaker and good questioning skills from the listener. So I'm going to put these on my picture. You have two people, one speaker and one listener. The role of the speaker is to give directions, specific directions to the listener. They could also give instructions as well. It depends on the type of activity that they're engaging in. Now, I'm going to give Adrian directions here. Adrian, will you put your boat under the trees but on top of the water? So they're under the trees but on top of the water. The role of the listener is to listen very carefully, to understand what they're supposed to do and to do it in turn. But if they're in doubt in any way, they must ask the speaker specific questions in order to elicit specific responses, which will enable them to put their materials in the correct position. On top of the little fish on the left-hand side of the picture.
Is that the yellow fish?
It's the yellow fish.
Okay.
Okay, Adrian, could you put the diver... Now, in Adrian's class this morning, we also had the person as the barrier in the middle, which is great because they keep the ground rules going. So no one person can be cheating or helping the other person, a little bit more than they should be or whatever. You really want to get the language going so that the end product ends up being the same on both sides of the barrier. So the barrier games, they're a great little language tool to get conversations going. They really provide the basis of good dialogue. We had a few different activities going today, and we would have modelled all of those activities to the children before today. So we had 4 stations today. One station had the attribute blocks, which is quite a difficult station because when the person was giving the instructions, they needed to use various different attributes such as thick and thin, the size, the shape, big and small. So there was a lot of language going on that table there. Another table that was quite difficult was the beach scene, and that was the activity that Adrian and I modelled beforehand. That was quite a difficult one as well because there was an increase in the variety of objects that had to be placed on the background, and that was quite a difficult one, so it was challenging for that group. Another group were working on the threading activity, and here we were looking, again going back to the mathematical language, they were using cubes and spheres. And they had colour going on there. So there were 2 attributes going on there. So it was a little bit easier than the other attribute section. Another group were working on the clown. And the clown is a lovely little activity because there isn't a huge amount of variety there. So the children could get going on that straight away. And that caters for all ability groups. But you can see the scope for differentiation with these barrier games. You can increase the complexity of them by adding more items in. So there's great opportunity for providing this as an opportunity for all classes. You can make them the same activities, but you can make them more difficult or less difficult for whatever class or ability group you're dealing with.
Please take time to reflect and consider what worked well in this session and what would you do differently. Discuss this with a colleague if possible.